All right, let's talk about Medusa. Seriously, she's one of the most incredible, most enduring figures to come out of Greek mythology. Her story has been echoing for thousands of years. But who was she, really?
For most people, the name Medusa brings up one single terrifying image. This hideous gorgon, snakes for hair, and a gaze that turns anyone and anything to solid stone. She's the villain, right? The monster that needs to be taken down.
And yet, her face is, well, it's everywhere. For centuries, she's been immortalized in art by masters like Caravaggio and Cellini. And today, her head is the logo for Versace. So yeah, from the highest art to everyday pop culture, she's just a constant presence. And that question, right there, is the key to everything. Because underneath that monstrous legend, there's a totally different story. It's one that was buried for centuries, and it challenges everything we think we know about her.
So, let's go back, way back. The version of her myth that most of us are familiar with comes from the Roman poet Ovid. And let me tell you, it reveals a story that is so much more complex and tragic than her monstrous reputation would have you believe.
So according to Ovid, Medusa wasn't born a monster at all. Nope. She was a beautiful mortal maiden, a priestess who served the goddess Athena. And she was desired by pretty much everyone, especially for her incredible golden hair.
But her life just unfolds as this sequence of devastating tragedies. First, as this beautiful priestess, she catches the eye of the sea god Poseidon, who assaults her inside Athena's own sacred temple. And in this absolutely cruel twist of justice, it's Medusa who gets punished. Athena transforms her beautiful hair into a nest of snakes and curses her so her gaze now turns men to stone. Cast out, totally isolated, her story ends when she's hunted by the guy we're told is the hero, Perseus, who decapitates her in her sleep and then uses her head as a weapon.
Okay, so this brings us to the central debate around what Athena did. On one side, you've got the idea that this was just a cruel punishment. Was Medusa being blamed for dirtying the goddess's temple? That's the old-school patriarchal narrative that makes Perseus out to be the hero. But on the other side, what if it was a form of protection? It's a radical interpretation for sure, but some argue the transformation was actually a gift, giving Medusa this terrifying power to defend herself forever against unwanted male attention. So this whole idea of empowerment and defense, it brings us to a really powerful concept that has become so central to how we see Medusa today, the idea of the gaze. So for centuries, art and literature have been shaped by what we call the male gaze. Basically, women were positioned as these passive objects, things to be looked at, to be surveyed, and turned into a site for male pleasure.
So her beheading, it becomes super symbolic. In art, when you see Medusa's head cut off, she becomes a manageable object. It's like Susan R. Bauer says here, without a head, she can't threaten you with her own point of view. Her power, her self, is neutralized. It makes her image safe to look at.
And wow, look at this piece of art. It just captures that silenced tragedy so perfectly. You don't just see the monstrous snakes, you see this profound sorrow in her face. It's a story of pain that was ignored for centuries, even as her head was being swung around as a weapon by her own killer. All right, so if the male gaze twisted Medusa's story, then her power is the ultimate counter, the female gaze. This is all about looking back, about reclaiming the right to see instead of just being seen. And Medusa's power? It's the most extreme form of this you can imagine. Her gaze doesn't just challenge you, it literally petrifies you.
And this is really the crucial point. In this modern rereading, her ability to turn assailants to stone, well, it isn't monstrous. It's seen as this form of absolute, devastating justice. It's a fantasy of satisfying revenge against those who would do her harm.
So, how did we get here? How did this shift happen? Let's trace how Medusa's image has been reclaimed and totally repurposed, from the ancient world all the way up to today.
What's really wild is that even way back in ancient times, Medusa wasn't just seen as a monster. Her head, known as the gorgonian, was seen as a powerful apotropaic symbol. That word comes from the Greek for to ward off. It's an image you use to avert evil and protect yourself.
And isn't that just a crazy paradox? The very same goddess who cursed Medusa, or empowered her, depending on how you look at it, used her image as a protective symbol on her own shield. It just goes to show you, from the very beginning, Medusa has always represented both terror and protection. Now fast forward to more recent history, and you see women writers and poets starting this radical revision of her myth. They stopped seeing her as the enemy and started identifying with her. They focused on her trauma, reimagined her as a symbol of female beauty and erotic power, and they turned her story into a journey of healing. She became this incredible, passionate symbol for the liberated female self.
And that reclamation, it has absolutely reached its peak in our time. Medusa's story of being assaulted, of being disbelieved, and then being punished for it, it resonates so deeply with the narratives of the #MeToo movement. She's become an emblem for survivors, representing their silenced pain and their righteous rage.
And this idea keeps popping up in some really unexpected places, as artists and thinkers find Medusa's archetype in modern figures. For instance, the scholar Beverly Tan was exploring this very topic, and she asked herself, who would Medusa be today? And the first person who came to mind was Billie Eilish.
So what's the connection? Well, think about it. Eilish, especially early in her career, completely rejected how a female pop star was supposed to look. By wearing baggy clothes, she denied the public the ability to easily survey and objectify her body. And that choice, it confused people. It even frustrated some of them. Just like Medusa, by controlling her own image and defying the public's gaze, she was met with this mix of fascination and hostility.
So, after all this time, who is she? A monster you should fear? A victim you should pity? A symbol of rage to champion? Her story isn't one fixed tale. It's a living myth that continues to evolve right along with us. And maybe that's the ultimate takeaway here. Medusa's image has always acted like a kind of mirror, reflecting how our culture views women and sexuality and power. So when you look at Medusa, the real question isn't just who you see. It's what reflection of our own world you see staring back.